Welcome to today's episode, and today I'm going to show you some interesting racket. Right, it's the first time I'm reviewing rackets from this brand, so I want to thank Sunlight Sports for sending these rackets to me. This is the 100 Ionic 100. Right, pretty cool racket, right, with black, red, and gold. And this is the 100 Atomic X Dark Sword. Okay, so I want to thank Sunlight Sports for sending me these rackets to review, and they also given me a discount code, right? So for the viewers out there who's buying from Li-Ning Studio, please use my promo code so that you can get yourself a nice discount. So before we go to the usual statistics, let's talk about how these rackets look. Okay, I think I have a thing for matte racket. So between the two, the one that caught my eye first was the Ionic 100. Okay, so let's review that later. Okay, so for the Atomic X Dark Sword, you can see that there's a black and gold words, and actually they come in another color which is white with black words. Okay, between the two, I think the white one looks a little bit cooler. As for the Atomic Dark Sword, it can hold a tension of 38 pounds. Wow! But this is, I don't even use 38 pounds. I don't even know whether there's any professionals that hold 38 pounds. But this is more than just about using it at 38 pounds, but this could mean the durability or the strength of the frame itself. Now, the other racket, this is the one that I think is way better looking. So this is the Ionic 100. Right, check this out, man. It's matte. And it has a black background with gold fonts and red on the side like that. I can't even explain what I'm seeing over here. And I think they have this very cool logo here that looks like a sword. I don't know, but I just feel like the fine lines are so cool. And I never expect to see this in a new brand, right? But check out the racket head. It's actually flat, right? It's not even curved. How cool is that? It's like a box shape. So I'm not so sure why is it flat, but it looks so cool. Okay, but one of the selling features, right, is that the box frame or the curve that it has is supposed to increase the sweet spot by 8%. Now it has a few words over here, like I'm going to just read to you. It says head heavy, nano frame system, super width carbon fiber, power beam system. Well, I think this is quite impressive marketing. I think what really matters is how it feels in the court. Okay, before we talk about how it translates in the court, let's just look at some of the statistics. So in terms of thickness of the shaft, right, both of them are pretty slim at 7 mm for the Ionic 100 and 7.1 mm for the Dark Sword. Okay, in terms of the length of the shaft, this is really interesting. Okay, the Ionic 100 is at 21.9. The Dark Sword is longer by 0.5 cm, and that's at 22.4. But the Dark Sword is close to 2 cm longer than the Li-Ning X-Force 100, right? So if I put them side by side, check this out, okay? If I put the frame, okay, let's put the beginning of the shaft side by side. Okay, so if they begin at the same point over here, look how much difference between the length of the shaft of these two rackets. Okay, you can also see that if I start the grip at the same point, the Dark Sword is a lot shorter while the X-Force 100 is a lot longer. Okay, so we know that the X-Force 100 has a very short shaft and it's a very stiff racket. And the Dark Sword is supposed to be a flexible racket, and now we know that it has also a very long shaft. So that should even bring out that characteristics even more. Okay, so for the next statistics that we want to measure, I just want to say that looking at the numbers is exactly as advertised. Okay, so for the Atomic Dark Sword, the displacement when I put on the 2 kg weight is 11 cm. Now when I look at my in comparison to all the rackets that I have tested, this is by far the most flexible racket. Okay, there are some rackets that come close, right? It is the Arc Saber 11 Pro from Yonex at 10.9, and the next racket is the Astrox 99 Pro at 10.7. right? These two are the closest in terms of flexibility, but this is a new record. I've never seen a more flexible racket than the Atomic X Dark Sword. Whereas the Ionic 100 is quite stiff at 9.8. 9.8 is similar to the stiffness of the Yonex Astrox 100. Right, because for that racket it was at a 9.9, right? This is at a 9.8. Okay, in terms of the balance point of the racket, the 100 Ionic, the Ionic 100 is at 30.8, which means it's pretty hit heavy, whereas the Dark Sword is 29.8, which is a little bit hit light. So it's just slightly hit light, right? I think around 30 cm will be around midpoint balance, okay? So usually with a hit-heavy racket, you will feel more power coming out from it, but it will be slower, or you may feel more difficult to maneuver or more sluggish. So let's see how this feels in the court. So very interesting results. Let's first talk about the sweet spot for these two rackets. I find that it took me no time to be able to adapt to using these two rackets. I would like to believe that it's because of my skills, but I do remember having a more difficult time trying to adapt to the Yonex NanoFlare 1000. Okay, so I am quite sure that this two racket has a larger sweet spot, is easier to manage and maneuver, perhaps because it's also not very head heavy, so it should be okay or easy for any intermediate or even beginner players to learn to adapt to this racket quite quickly. And because of the larger sweet spot, right, you will get most out of the racket while using it. Okay. Next, we talk about the drive. Right, I know that the Ionic 100 is supposed to be more head heavy, but to be honest, I didn't have much difficulty getting drives out of both rackets. It is true that the Dark Sword feels a bit quicker, but I do feel that it is too light and it doesn't quite have the kick or the punch when I'm driving. I didn't feel so for the Ionic 100. I felt that it was snappier and more powerful, even in my counter attacks and my push, right? So for the drive, I think the Ionic 100 is better than the Dark Sword. Now in terms of power, I think there's no question over here. The Ionic 100 delivers way more power than the Dark Sword, okay? And I think this has to do with a few factors. One, the Dark Sword is lighter in the head. It's more of a headlight racket, and the Dark Sword and the Ionic 100 is supposed to be a more head-heavy racket, right? The second reason is because the Dark Sword is supposed to be more flexible, okay? So Ionic 100, stiffer, head-heavy. Dark Sword, flexible, headlight. Of course, you'll get more power out of the Ionic 100. The final thing that I want to share in terms of how it feels in the court is the vibration and the feedback you get when you hit a shutter. I must say that I am a little disappointed with both, but between the two of them, Ionic 100 has a more solid feel. Well, between these two rackets, right, the feeling that it gives you when you hit a shutter is very different, okay? I will talk about the Ionic 100 first. Okay. It's a little bit more responsive, right? You can feel the feedback, and the feedback's a little bit sharper. But I still feel that the vibration drags on, right? So it doesn't just snap like pop, but it goes like bong, and it's a little bit of a hollow feeling to it. When it comes to the Atomic Dark Sword, the Atomic X Dark Sword, right? You get an even more hollow feeling. So I do get it that some people may like this feeling, right? You don't feel like it's very heavy. The feedback is rather strong because every time you hit a shutter, you can feel it pong, pong. But to me, it feels a little bit, I would use the word strange, right? Because it's something that I'm not used to. When I'm using stiff racket or at a high tension and when I hit a sweet spot, I would expect it to have a snappy feeling, like pop, ping, maybe like a higher pitch, rather than the low pitch, like dong, dong. So that's the feeling that I'm getting from the Atomic X Dark Sword. Okay, so it really depends on your personal preference, what kind of feeling that you're used to and what kind of feeling that you're going for. And I try my best to describe that feeling to you before you make that purchase. So I'm going to give you my overall recommendation. Despite the weight difference, both rackets are considerably quick for me. Right, which means that you can use both rackets for defense or attack. But of course, there is a difference between these two, right? the Ionic 100 would be a better choice if you are an offensive player, right? And the Atomic X Dark Sword would be a better choice if you're a more defensive player, right? But I think the real appeal to this suit is how easily maneuverable is this, how quick is it to hold, and I would recommend either front court doubles player, or if you're a new player and you want to be able to control and hold your racket well, this too should be something that you can take a look at and consider. They both come in many different colors, so you can choose which is your favorite color. But unfortunately, I'm not so sure how to get your hands on it if you're in Singapore. But let me check that for you and I'll get back to you soon enough, okay? I'm genuinely excited for the next episode, okay? Because Sunlight sent me another racket, and that racket is in competition with my favorite racket, my current favorite racket, the Yonex NanoFlare 1000. Right? So what racket from the 100 range can compete with a top grade racket, you know, like a professional racket from the Yonex product range? So if you want to find out, click like, subscribe, and click the notification button so that you will see the episode, you'll be notified when the episode comes out. Okay? Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!